Welcome back. The new is in the old concealed, the old is in the new revealed. Didn't Isaiah 53 predict Jesus? Isaiah 53 is one of the frequently cited go-to chapters favored by preachers and evangelists. Usually cited from Christian translations, out of context, it can easily be interpreted as a prophetic description of Jesus 700 years earlier.
Who has believed what he has heard from us? And to whom has the arm of the Lord been revealed? For he grew up before him like a young plant, and like a root out of dry ground. He had no form or majesty that we should look at him, and no beauty that we should desire him. He was despised and rejected by men, a man of sorrows and acquainted with grief, and as one from whom men hide their faces he was despised, and we esteemed him not. Surely he has borne our griefs and carried our sorrows, yet we esteemed him stricken, smitten by God, and afflicted. But he was wounded for our transgressions, he was crushed for our iniquities, upon him was the chastisement that brought us peace, and with his stripes we are healed. All we like sheep have gone astray, we have turned, every one, to his own way, and the Lord has laid on him the iniquity of us all. He was oppressed, and he was afflicted, yet he opened not his mouth. Like a lamb that is led to the slaughter, and like a sheep that before its shearers is silent, so he opened not his mouth. By oppression and judgment he was taken away, and as for his generation, who considered that he was cut off out of the land of the living, stricken for the transgression of my people. And they made his grave with the wicked and with a rich man in his death, although he had done no violence, and there was no deceit in his mouth. Yet it was the will of the Lord to crush him, he has put him to grief. When his soul makes an offering for guilt, he shall see his offspring, he shall prolong his days, the will of the Lord shall prosper in his hand. Out of the anguish of his soul he shall see and be satisfied. By his knowledge shall the righteous one, my servant, make many to be accounted righteous, and he shall bear their iniquities. Therefore I will divide him a portion with the many, and he shall divide the spoil with the strong, because he poured out his soul to death and was numbered with the transgressors, yet he bore the sin of many, and makes intercession for the transgressors. Isaiah 53 verses 1-12.
I wish I could read Hebrew. But even if I could, I would need to choose between the combination of Hebrew texts preferred by Christian translators, often guided in translation by fragments from the Dead Sea Scrolls and the Greek Septuagint and Latin Vulgate translations from Hebrew, and the Hebrew Masoretic text. The New JPS translation, Tanakh, the Holy Scriptures. The New JPS translation according to the traditional Hebrew text, Jewish Publication Society, 1985, differs from all the Christian translations I'm familiar with. You can read this translation at www.sepharia.org and I will provide the link. It says the servant was familiar with disease, 53 verse 3, and the Lord chose to crush him by disease, 53 verse 10, and was not being stricken for people's transgressions, but through his people's sins, 53 verse 8. Like the English Standard Version UK, the JPS uses the word wounded in 53 verse 5, unlike many English versions, including the other, US, English Standard Version, which prefer the word pierced. Isaiah might have been personifying Israel, as Ezekiel 37 verses 1-14 did with the imagery of human bones being restored to life. The chapters before and after are about Israel, and we must remember the chapter divisions were not part of the original text. Alternatively, Isaiah might have been describing someone suffering because of Israel's unfaithfulness as Jeremiah did. Isaiah seems to say the servant in question died yet his life was prolonged. But he also speaks of the servant's offspring. Yes, okay, his followers could be spiritual offspring. This fits the description of the nation of Israel as a tree stump with a faithful remnant sprouting up with new life as in Isaiah 11 verses 1-5, and verse 10.
There shall come forth a shoot from the stump of Jesse, and a branch from his roots shall bear fruit. And the Spirit of the Lord shall rest upon him, the Spirit of wisdom and understanding, the Spirit of counsel and might, the Spirit of knowledge and the fear of the Lord. And his delight shall be in the fear of the Lord. He shall not judge by what his eyes see, or decide disputes by what his ears hear, but with righteousness he shall judge the poor, and decide with equity for the meek of the earth, and he shall strike the earth with the rod of his mouth, and with the breath of his lips he shall kill the wicked. Righteousness shall be the belt of his waist, and faithfulness the belt of his loins. Isaiah 11 verses 1-5. In that day the root of Jesse, who shall stand as a signal for the peoples, of him shall the nations inquire, and his resting place shall be glorious. Isaiah 11 verse 10.
The Hebrew word Messiah simply means anointed one. It can refer to prophets, priests and kings. Without a New Testament lens, the Old Testament prophecies do not describe a divine anointed one. Even if Jesus was one of God's anointed ones, perhaps a prophet like Jeremiah, suffering because he and his message were rejected, and even if he was the subject of Isaiah 53, that would neither make him king nor divine. Nor would it make the entire New Testament God's word. Next, we will look at the problematic genealogies of Jesus and see how they fit with the Old Testament.